And the rhetoric being used in the land debate. In the spotlight are the Ingonyama Trust and expropriation without compensation. Now, under the radar, perhaps at the same time, public hearings are taking place around the Restitution of Land Rights Amendment Bill. This is all about reopening land claims for new claimants, people who lost their land in the past. In 2016, the Constitutional Court struck down the Restitution of Land Rights Amendment Act of 2014. That had already reopened the process. Parliament was then given a deadline. At the end of this month is when it kicks in, and that was to resolve issues in a new bill. To discuss, we're joined by ANC Member of Parliament Pumzile Mnguni, who is from the Portfolio Committee on Rural Development and Land Reform. Mr. Mnguni, thank you for being with us. So these really are people who have claims because their land was really expropriated without compensation. The initial cutoff was 1998. Just remind us what was wrong with that.
Thank you very much. Good evening to you and to the viewers out there. Yes, indeed, the first reopening, you remember that the land portfolio in its broadest sense has got three areas. One area will be the area of land redistribution. Land redistribution generally giving access to land to those who don't have. The second area will be land tenure security, people being secured and safe where they are, not being kicked out anytime willy-nilly. But this area that we're looking at is land restitution, the third leg, if you like, of the land question. Now, yes, in the period 1994 up to 1998, 31st December, the Act really opened for that 5-year period in its original form, and 80,000 people lodged applications. Now, if 80,000 people lodged applications, there was a hue and cry that quite still millions of people have not been able to lodge, and therefore they need to reopen. Yes.
Out of interest, out of 80,000 people, how many have had their land restored to them? Because we always say the land restitution process is very slow.
Yeah. Of the 80,000, when we asked as a portfolio committee, of which I'm the whip and acting chair now in the absence of the chair, when we asked the Restitution Commission about progress, we were told that there was 6,000 outstanding claims. Of course, of that 80,000, quite a number of other people choose money, and it makes the statistic that is out there in the public to be slightly inaccurate. Others will say you still have a single-digit land reformed and restituted. But however, it should be viewed in its broader context to say other families, households, claimants chose money. So in short, out of 80,000, by the end of this financial year, which ended in March, we expect that the number has dropped below 6,000 now. We'll hear in the annual report when the parliament reopens, but the number is in the vicinity of less than 6,000.
All right. Now to reopen the process, a bill has to be passed. So the one was struck down in 2016, a new bill formulated last year. Is there a scramble to meet the deadline to hold the public hearings right now?
Exactly, thank you. Yeah, there was a reopening that took place. I dare say that highlight an important aspect about it. 2014 to 27th July 2016. It was a 2-year period because it was from 2014 mid. In that 2-year period, about 166,000 claims were lodged, which is even more than double the first 5-year period, but now in a period of 2 years. But unfortunately, the matter was referred by some social groups to the Constitutional Court. And Constitutional Court said Parliament must do two things. Deepen consultation as one aspect so that everyone has been sufficiently canvassed in terms of their view on reopening of land claims, which is restitution. The second thing that Constitutional Court asked Parliament to do was to really fine-tune a definition of priority. What do you mean by priority? How will claims be prioritized? So that was that. and that led to us and myself in particular initiating in Parliament, in my capacity as Member of Parliament, initiating a bill to reopen, but in such a manner that we would expect Parliament to have a thoroughgoing consultation process, one. Two, to then in that reopening adequately define how prioritization is then going to be done.
So how far are those hearings? I understand that there has been hearings in several provinces, and there is a deadline at the end of this month. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct, yeah. We worked under tight timeline. There's a due process, I will not go into it, that since the passing of the judgment by the Constitutional Court, we immediately set on, rolled our sleeves and started a process. And that process, including drafting, including opening for preliminary comments, which were made to me as I was drafting at that stage, and that process leading to the public hearings. On public hearings, we've gone out for 3 weeks. We split the committee into 2 teams. One team covered 4 provinces and the other covered the other 4 provinces to make 8. And then we combined this week in the Western Cape, in Mossel Bay and in Worcester. So the public hearings have now covered the whole of South Africa. 18 sites were chosen, 2 per province. Largely we wanted to reach out to sites where there has not been parliamentary hearing before, and so that the sense of consultation is deepened. Obviously, very, very excited as we wrap up. We wrapped up in Worcester on Tuesday. As we wrap up, there's overwhelming, it's on record, close to 98% support for the reopening of land claims, people citing all sorts of reasons why they could not claim. Yes.
So will this pass constitutional muster, I guess we say, because the Constitutional Court was concerned last time that there wasn't adequate public consultation. It does sound a little bit rushed, what you've done this time. It was also concerned that it hadn't been outlined, so the 6,000, will they definitely be in front of the queue above the 166 new claimants that you've outlined? The Institute of Race Relations says those problems haven't been fixed in the new bill.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, in the new bill, there's a number of innovative proposals that I put up, supported by the parliamentary legal section, but basically to deal with the issue of prioritization, the flooding of things, the claims disappearing. So we've actually streamlined the process, like there should then be a national land register. 2, to avoid the bottleneck, make the land claims court a full-time court with a full bench and full-time judges remunerated at the scale of all other judges, and then that the principle be first come, first served basis by way of prioritization, except in instances where there are competing claims on the same piece of land. But even those competing claims won't jump the queue, but when one of them is being dealt with, then the others competing for that would also be heard in order to fairly adjudicate on that one claim. So yes, the process would now be streamlined. That 6,000, according to book, according to the new proposal, therefore, that 6,000 that's outstanding would be done first, and then would then be followed in order of priority by the 166,000. But we expect that the reopening, if it's for 5 years as proposed, other places like Port St. John's, they said, no, make it 7 to 10 years. But we had proposed in the draft bill, a 5-year opening. We would hope that at least 1 million claimants would lodge their claims. We should remember and bring it to the public attention that opinion makers, professors, researchers, and activists in the social movements estimate that people dislodged of their land between 1913 and 1994 would count for anything close to 7.5 million. So it means if you combine all claims lodged to date, they're hardly 240,000. So if you open up, you would expect that at least 1 million mark is actually reached in about 5 years. And therefore, you put in place these tools to ensure that the process is not frustrated. There's National Land Register. Everyone can see I claimed on a certain date, the other one claimed on the other date, and then there's a first come, first served basis. So there would be kind of an order as we envisage in how the claims would be processed.
Right.
There could be further regulations by the ministry to ensure that the Land Claims Commission itself has got adequate capacity to speed up process.
Right.
So the process has been improving by day. If you compare the first opening window.
Thank you so much for clarifying this process. Thank you for clarifying. So, Mr. Mnguni,
there were even now mobile lodgement offices and so on.
We're going to have to cut him off. Thank you very much. And outlining there could be a flood of claims as government, if it succeeds this portfolio committee to get their bill passed to reopen the process for claimants. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more news.